Alright, you know what? Silverback gorillas have basically become the internet's default animal to judge insane feats by. Everyone loves to talk about how much it can lift, or how many people it could fold out of the 100-man lineup. At this point, the gorilla is a solid unit of measurement. I mean, we all know it utterly loses to a grizzly in a fight, can't even make a tiger sweat, but would absolutely humble something like a wolf. So where does it actually stop in terms of animals? Well, how about we pull out an animal from between the wolf tier and grizzly tier? Something that kills for a living. I'm talking about a lioness. And no, not the maned warrior of the savannah you see on posters. I'm talking about his queen counterparts. So today, we're putting up finesse against brute strength. On one side, you've got the silverback gorilla, a walking gym trauma that will get kicked out of any Planet Fitness for existing. And on the other, you've got the lioness, an animal that turns a wildebeest and zebra's life into a jump scare horror game. So yeah, today I'm answering who would win in a fight between a gorilla and a lioness. And by the way, this is actually a quite interesting scenario, and the winner really might not be who you would expect. But just a preface, okay? This is not some King Kong times Lion King crossover. I'm basing this scenario off actual biology and real fight mechanics. And yes, I'll give y'all an actual answer, not some 50-50 nonsense BS response. I got you. Anyways, let's establish some ground rules for this fight, shall we? Let's assume both the gorilla and lioness are angry adults in their primes and want to duke it out. So no running away, they are fighting. And where shall this take place? Well, let's say this 1v1 happens in an open field, so pretty even terrain here, okay? Now let's find out who wins this fight. Size and physique. So first up, we have the silverback gorilla, aka the embodiment of insecurities for power lifters. I mean, it's usually the animal everyone thinks about when the term brute strength comes to mind, and rightfully so. Gorillas have been documented lifting heavy logs off the ground with ease, tearing down banana trees like yard work, which that's something that takes multiple kicks from a professional fighter to do, and they've been seen doing these weird pull-up things, which you don't really see a strongman like Eddie Hall doing that. But in terms of just how much they can lift, you see numbers floating out there like 1,800 pounds, but I'll be honest with you and say those numbers are completely BS, and there actually has not been any real studies on how much they can lift, unfortunately. But what we do know from their anatomy is that they're actually built for pulling, climbing, and dragging. Basically, their entire body screams back day at the gym, but they're kind of skipping out on those legs, I'm not gonna lie. Alright, so enough of this gorilla glazing. Just how large is a silverback? Well, it depends on which ones we're talking about. Most gorillas you see in zoos are actually western lowland gorillas, hovering around 310 pounds and standing about 5.5 feet tall. But the real Hulk mode ones are the eastern lowland gorillas, with mature males weighing between 330 to 460 pounds. But just other than size, it's really how these creatures are built. Gorillas are very broad, compact creatures that mainly move around quadrupodally, which does have some advantages like stability. You know, they're packing that 400-pound frame into a 5.5 foot tall body. And because of that, a gorilla's bones are a lot thicker than ours and have an absolutely huge skull that could straight up make a punch from Mike Tyson not even phase it. But here's the catch. Despite the gorilla's bulk, its skin is its main downfall. Essentially, it has anthropoid flesh that is similar to us humans, which unfortunately means that it's prone to easily tearing and bleeding out. So to sum this all up for you, while the gorilla's bulk and bone structure is great for taking blunt force and dishing out powerful movements, when it comes to sharp stuff like claws, that human-like flesh becomes a pretty big problem, especially against a big cat. But speaking of cats, let's move on to the gorilla's opponent, the lioness, aka the ultimate punishment for a wildebeest existing. Yeah, she's the reason why half the savannah has trust issues. In fact, lionesses are such a menace that they've been seen taking down zebras double their weight, dragging kudu carcasses around, soloing leopards like it's light work, and bullying other animals bigger than they are on a regular basis. But beyond the cat calisthenics build, just how big is a lioness? Well, the South African lioness usually weighs in between 260 to 316 pounds. So yeah, on paper, the eastern lowland gorilla wins a size battle by about 100 pounds or so. But listen carefully, people. How the lioness is built makes her a nightmare matchup for the gorilla. She's got that classic big cat physique, you know, simply very muscle dense, springy, and insanely acrobatic. She can explode forward, leap, sidestep, and change directions way faster than a bulky silverback ever could. And here's a twist. In terms of actual durability, she might have the edge for this. Listen, the lioness has loose fitting fur over her body, which bunches up when hit or clawed. Essentially, when the fur clumps up, the lioness can twist and turn no problem. I mean, there's a reason why lionesses don't get all super scratched up when they fight. But the gorilla, it's got that tight human-like skin that rips and bleeds a lot easier. Yeah, you know how cat scratches hurt? Imagine that, but on a Super Saiyan level. That's what the gorilla is dealing with. But I mean, in terms of actual size, the gorilla is just simply a lot larger, has very thick bones, and is simply more stable slash solid. So punching that thing would be like trying to hit a brick wall. So yeah, it's kind of a give and take here. One's harder to puncture and more acrobatic, while one of them is bulkier, stronger, and built like a boulder. But at the end of the day, this is a fight, not a physique show. So how are they throwing hands though? What does a 1v1 between them really look like? And what are they each bringing to the table when it comes to actually hurting each other? Well, this brings me on to my last point, which is weaponry and fighting IQ. Alright, so we're already looking at two completely different animals, but how does the gorilla actually throw down? We all know they're extremely strong, okay? But when they duel, it's pretty brutish, not gonna lie. They love to wrestle, toss around their opponents, and club with their arms. And yeah, I said club because when they hit, it's not some clean uppercut, it's more like chaotically flailing their arms around, kind of like a slapbox fight. That's because gorillas don't have the same fine motor control over their muscles like we do. So before y'all start picturing some King Kong level fighting genius, nah, they're not that. Really, their whole goal when fighting is to grapple, and they're actually really good wrestlers. This is because the gorilla's weight distribution and posture makes them very hard to shove backwards and gives them great stability when they're planted and mauling something. And when they finally do grab a hold of their opponents, they like to bite the limbs. Now, yes, the gorilla's bite is very strong, don't get me wrong, but listen carefully. Their teeth are built for an herbivorous diet, not efficient for killing large, struggling animals. Basically, if you take a look, their mouth is pressed right up against their face, just like us humans. So it would basically have to put its face on the limb it's biting, and getting that close to a lioness, whose entire body is designed to kill, is a terrible trade-off. But the gorilla has a very unique trait, which is its ability to grab and manipulate things with its hands. However, do I need to tell you why grabbing a lioness would be bad? Yeah, that's just an invitation for it to get its skin shredded. Now, it ain't all bad for the gorilla though. It does have massive long arms to keep the lioness at a distance, and just an overall stronger body for dragging and tossing. Now, I already know some people are thinking, hey, isn't the gorilla stronger? And to that, I say, yeah, sure, but this ain't a powerlifting competition. The lioness does not need to outlift it. She needs to outkill it. And when it comes to killing, she's got literal millions of years of muscle memory on her side. You see, lionesses fight like they're trying to express ship you to the afterlife. They've got that 1.5-inch claws specifically designed to rip through flesh, and a nasty bite with their teeth crafted by evolution to sink into muscle. And when you see them scrapping with each other, they love to lunge forward to bite and swipe with their paws, though I do gotta say their swipes are more like jabs meant to distract and annoy. But where they really shine is in the hunt. You see, lionesses love to outmaneuver charging prey by sidestepping and leaping onto the back half of the animals specifically. And that's where they dig in their claws and attack the spine slash rear area. Oh, and by the way, if they get a strong hold, they can use their back feet to further scratch and help them disembowel, along with their bites, by the way. And if they can hang on to bucking zebras and wildebeest that are literally twice their size, they're more than capable of hanging onto a gorilla. But the real cheat code though is where they hit. A lioness has built-in instincts to go for kill zones: the neck, the spine, the throat, and the skull. She knows where to shut off the body. The gorilla, however, is just trying to make you hurt somewhere and kind of hoping for the best. For example, you don't see gorillas gorillas trying to bite the neck of anything. Oh, and remember how I said the gorilla moves around quadrupedally? Yeah, its back would be perfectly vulnerable for the lioness to kind of take advantage. And if you guys know anything about big lumbering people, they can't really scratch their back all too well. But the lioness sure can help, albeit the price of blood. But realistically speaking, is that enough? Could the gorilla just simply be too big and powerful, toss the lioness around like a rag doll, crush her limbs, and prove why people keep inventing King Kong scenarios? Or does the lioness's acrobatics, sharp claws and teeth, and built-in killer instinct let her take the W? Well, people, I think it's about time we determine a verdict. Alright, we have our stats. So who would win in a fight between a silverback gorilla and a lioness? Well, people, given all the information I presented, I think the lioness would take the W more often than not. Now, I don't really see this being a complete stomp. I see the lioness kind of struggling here, right? But she just has the proper weapons to actually fatally wound the gorilla. Think about it like this, right? She has great flesh-carving claws and a way deadlier bite than a gorilla. You know, proper teeth and a jaw structure meant to sink through muscle. I mean, the gorilla really doesn't have any fight-ending weaponry, right? And if you pair that up with its pretty bad defense of its human-like flesh, you can kind of see how it'd be more into the lion's favor, right? Here's how I see the fight going. I can see them kind of both squaring off head to head. The gorilla will try to kind of charge in, and I see the cat kind of trying to sidestep and try to reach the back of the gorilla. That'd most likely be its goal. I mean, that's how they mainly take down prey, right? So the gorilla might hit her a couple of times, maybe try to throw her off when she tries to actually land on the gorilla itself from behind, but eventually I see her kind of getting that actual leverage. She's just too acrobatic and would just simply scratch wounds and bites into the gorilla's spinal region that would cause it to eventually just bleed out and become very exhausted because of that. From there, it's pretty much GG's. She goes for a skull bite or a simple neck bite, right? So pretty much here, I don't really see how the gorilla would severely injure the lioness unless the lioness severely messes up, you know, has the gorilla grab one of its limbs and dislocates it or something like that. But that realistically is not going to happen. The gorilla trying to grapple with the lioness would really not be in its favor here. Overall, the lioness is getting tossed around a bit, might struggle to kind of control the gorilla initially, but the accumulated deep gashes the lioness would do to the muscle of the gorilla's back or to the ribs, and given how the lioness specifically knows where to target for kill zones, such as going for the spine or the neck, would give her a way better advantage. The gorilla's just kind of trying to swing and see what happens, right? They're not really trained to bite the necks or anything like that. So yeah, feel free to comment what you think, and don't forget to like this video, subscribe, and check out the rest of my content.